to tackle the spike in releases in error, so that we can uphold the first duty of every government to keep the public safe from harm, I commend this statement to the House.
I call Robert Jenrick, Shadow Secretary of State.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, dear, oh dear, where to begin? This Justice Secretary could not deport the only small boat migrant who who tried to be deported. Yes. Having been mistakenly released, Hadush Kabatu came back to prison asking to be deported, not once, not twice, but 5 times. But he was turned away. Madam Deputy Speaker, the only illegal migrants this government are stopping are those that actually want to leave the UK. His officials, briefing the press, called it the mother of all. Yeah, they're not wrong, are they? Calamity Lammy strikes again. It's a national embarrassment. And today, the Justice Secretary feigns anger at what's happened. He says he is livid Kebatu was mistakenly let out. But under his plans to abolish short prison sentences that he forced through the Commons last week, Kebatu would never have even stepped foot in prison in the first place. So let's get it straight. We had the spectacle of the Metropolitan Police scouring London to find a man the Justice Secretary is simultaneously legislating to avoid sending to prison. What an absolute farce. So look, I must commend the Justice Secretary's performance. It is truly BAFTA worthy. He has perfected the art of performative outrage to a T. On Wednesday, well look, they may be laughing, but let me finish this point. On Wednesday, he will force every one of his MPs to vote again on the sentencing bill, which will see hundreds of sex offenders, just like Kebatu, avoid prison altogether. Sick men who destroy the lives of young girls, who steal their childhoods from them, they will be free to roam your communities, to steal the childhoods of your constituents. And I'll tell you who'll be livid then. The British public will be livid, and they'll know who's to blame. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Justice Secretary says he's launched an inquiry into what's happened. But he should be able to provide some basic questions to the House now. With respect to the prison in question, HMP Chelmsford, there's clearly a very significant problem. In a previous internal audit at Chelmsford, officials had marked their own homework as good, yet inspectors rated it as of serious concern. What is the Justice Secretary going to do now to address the way in which problems in our prisons are covered up routinely or wished away? On the subject of the inquiry itself, you won't be surprised to hear I am, how shall I put it, sceptical about this government's ability to conduct inquiries with any competence. Why is it limiting itself to this particular security farce and not the other glaring errors, like the doubling of drone sightings above prisons, the soaring assault on prison officers, or the rampant extremism we're now seeing in our jails? Shocking as this accidental release is, it is not a one-off blunder. It has come to be the norm under this government, as the number of prisoners mistakenly let out early has more than doubled. So can the Justice Secretary tell the House how many of the 262 prisoners let out mistakenly in the year to March were violent or sexual offenders? And how many are still at large? There are now record numbers of foreign nationals clogging up our prisons, more than under the last government. How many of those 262 prisoners accidentally released are migrants, like Kebatu, who were awaiting deportation? Madam Deputy Speaker, can the Justice Secretary give the House his cast-iron assurance that this man will be deported from our country by the end of the week, as he promised on the news on Sunday? And if he fails, will he take responsibility and resign? And lastly, on Tuesday, the Justice Secretary blocked my amendment to release the migrant crime data. Does he now finally acknowledge that there is a link between the small boats and crime in this country? And will he call the small boats out for what they are, a national security emergency? Madam Deputy Speaker, this man should never have been in our country in the first place. That's the truth. He should have been detained. He should have been deported. Instead, he was put up in a hotel in Epping and allowed to prey on schoolgirls. Now we learn that some Labour officials privately concede that they were wrong to scrap the Rwanda plan. Be in no doubt. From start to finish, the Kebatu fiasco was a creation entirely of Labour's own making. So I say to the Justice Secretary, there's no point coming to the House today professing to be livid at the consequences of your own policies. The British people, they can see straight through you.
Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a serious issue, and that's why there will be a full independent investigation. The Shadow Justice Secretary, I'll give him this, he's smooth. But as my mother would have said, if he was chocolate, he'd lick himself. He should hang his head in shame. The crisis